I will not try to define much what is it, but I will speak for practicalities, what I actually do in the sessions, and maybe that at the end will give a definition to you, or it will give you the freedom to, let's say, elaborate further the small definition I will give now. So to supervise Lacanianly is for the analyst, in my opinion, to not to be in the place of the object A. Okay, because in the object A, if you are in the place of the object A, you are causing a desire which is related to the trauma. I mean, I understand how desire can function like that, but it's always related to a trauma. Like you veil that object of desire, and at the end, they discover whatever, blah, blah, blah. That sort of analysis is good, but I consider it not analysis but psychotherapy, even though it's Lacanian, which is the best sort of psychoanalytic psychotherapy or psychoanalysis. But it does have a cure. I agree with Thomas Sass here, this crazy psychiatry, who said that even Lacan and Freud, in their greatness, they were not able to go beyond the diagnosis in their practice. So, for me to supervise Lacanianly for the analyst to go to become himself the place of desire, to not to cause desire to analyze that, but to supervise from that place. And that means to what we are supervising, it's a desire of the analyst in supervision. So that's my very small definition, and I'll go now to a few practical things that I am suggesting, and of course you can interrupt at any time. If I want to continue talking, I will be telling you. One of the first things that I ask, maybe not in the first session, but at some point I will ask it, maybe not in the first session, but maybe in the third, fourth, or whatever, which is a question that will give some sort of a structure to the counter between supervisor and analyst, or this whatever supervision thing, is why you chose this case. Why you want to supervise that case. I'm not saying that I'm the only one who did it. Actually, I found recently that Andre Green was doing that. Andre Green was asking why you want to supervise that case, and I liked it. I don't think he was doing it for the same purpose that I'm doing it, but the why you want to supervise that case, of course, it touches upon the analyst's own unconscious and the difficulties and the blind spots, but mostly it gives the analyst the opportunity to provide a paragraph of what this case is about. By answering this question, you are giving at least 50% of the answer of how you are structuring the topology of the session. I want to supervise this case because blah, 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 blah. I have challenges, I have this, I have that. So I'm asking this question a lot. It is an important question because I said it structures the session. It structures the session beyond providing any clinical diagnosis, or because what I believe is that clinical diagnosis is good, but it always puts the analyst here in this position, looking from the outside a case, which is a very good and honorable position. This is the best you can get outside of our school or within our school. Okay, this is a good way to do analysis, to be able to be to detect everything. Okay, this is a phallus, this is that, which you should do anyway at some point. But to be an outsider but at the same time, you are not an outsider, you are not a bystander. So the first question, why did you choose this? Why did you choose this case to provide? Why you want to supervise it? It relates to my second question that I ask. I don't ask them particularly in the same order, but this is a good order to ask them. What is the metaphor that you have provided to this subject? I will tell you what is it. The metaphor that I expect experienced analysts to be able to give from the first session, or let's not say experience, but from 1 to 3 sessions, you should be able, as time goes by and you get more experience, to provide a metaphor to the analysand of what is happening, of what will be happening there. I remember the example that Lacan, I give Lacan's example with Eric Laurent. But okay, well, we are going to write the book, but this is this analysis, but you are going to be a protagonist and the writer at the same time. So this metaphor that you will give is not going to be just a random metaphor out of shitty signifiers that you picked up from just to act clever. It has to be based on the signifiers of the analysand, Okay? If you provide that sort of metaphor, it immediately situates analysis not in relation to the symptom, but in relation to desire. It doesn't mean that the desire is to be a writer, but immediately you remove, you speak, you give orientation, you mark space with signifiers that are not so closely related to the symptom or to suffering. You are telling him we are going to construct. Okay? What we are going to construct is a place where the act or not will take place. And this is what, in my opinion, in the ascesis, it replaces, in a conversation we had with Marinos, I mean, that's what I had in mind, but Marinos put into very simplified forms. This is what replaces the orientation of the treatment. So if you are able to provide that metaphor, it's very organic because it's based on what it is said and what it is not said. Actually, it is the opposite of hiding the object there. You veil it. Let's say somebody has never gotten from their father a man who's very successful, does everything. The father is acting like a bitch, and even though that man is 50 years old, he's there, he's doing everything, but he has never been recognized as something special. Okay, and he chose you as an analyst. He chose me in that case, and he says that to his wife, who says that, but he looks crazy. What, you sure you want to go to him? He says, no, he's not crazy. He's exceptional. He's thinking out of the box and he's exceptional. I want to go to him. I don't believe he's crazy. What he saw in that analyst, it was part of his desire that he was exceptional too. Okay, so part of the metaphor I gave him, it was related to that, which is exactly the opposite of veiling the object. There I appear as a gaze who verified, okay, who verified his, I'm not going to call it desire, but desire as the other Lacanians might have called it, like to be recognized as such. So when I did that, when I pose this metaphor and I do this, which the metaphor functions a bit as an interpretation from the object. So it's as if I'm saying I will use the Cypriot saying that here we don't have φάγε γνίστου, έχει φάγε βουδαυρίστου. Now, okay, we said that shit, now get down to work. Get down to work now to do analysis. And also I got this from Richard because his analyst, who was not Lacanian, of course, Richard changed it in his own words. He went to his first analyst, he said a few things, which I'm not going to repeat now. And the guy gave him an interpretation, an interpretation, which kind of soothed the symptom at that moment. He says, and then Richard said, now, okay, let's get down to work now. What Richard said, it was, that's just kisses. That's a metaphor, and now we have to work. Why I do that? Some people might leave, might not like it. But the reason I do that is because immediately with these interventions you do before you give the what the fuck? Okay, sorry, I cannot see everywhere. Angele, compadre, pues, let's see. So I forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah. Yes, this get down to work. It's to love to work, but to have you test their desire. Okay, you take not only their ability to take signal, but you test their desire, because they need to understand not only this. Oh, I was recognized as a clever one, special one. Now you fucking prove it. Now you work for it. Show it to me. Do the analysis as the one who is special. Okay, so it gives an orientation towards that, and we are not wasting valuable time. So these are the parameters, and also the metaphor that I ask people to provide me supervision. It's very special, not only for what I said, but also if a metaphor is provided. This sort, I call it, by the way, I wrote it in a book, but I think I never mentioned it in a seminar. I don't call it just, I call it the literal metaphor, to separate it from the metaphor and the metonymy. So it's a literal metaphor. Why? Because it would be a literal actor. It's alive what is happening there. It's not just, theology, or you are doing something that is for life. So the metaphor is not only to give direction or whatever construction place to the analysand, but also it bounds the analyst also. It bounds you. Let's say if you have given that metaphor, what the fuck are you going to do to keep that metaphor, and what strategy, I use the word strategy lately, but it's a very nice word, simple word, strategy you are going to use in relation to that metaphor. A part of the strategy would be to, to separate from the idea, blah, 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 which it's one of the two things that the most common Lacanian practice does is to separate the person from the ideal ego, as Lacan did with the Chacha, and also to show the symptom in a context. I want to show the context where someone will express with this metaphor their desire and do something about it. Of course, we are going to touch upon the other things I told you, but it bounds what I was saying, and it's important. It bounds the analysis also. Let's say if we're okay, you are going to do this and this in this. This is a metaphor. Let's say, so I am bound by this metaphor because I'm part of it. It's not only him and me. I'm the bystander. Okay. The third point is that this metaphor, it has an effect on the body, because you are not looking only as an outsider. You are part of the metaphor. Yes, you are going to give interpretation stuff, but you are part of the metaphor. We are going to do this. Okay, so it might take a toll on your body. So we've got the responsibility to be very clear, at least from our heavy signifiers, and to be very clear for our desire, not only desire of the analyst. When I said that at least one who desires, is someone who is guided by desire, most of the times at least, in his or her own life. Okay, desire is I'm not going to use the word tool, but I will use the Aristotelian word in a different context, though. And I think I wrote it in my first book, maybe Virginia is remember. The word organon. Organon was the method of Aristotle. The way he was proceeding was the Aristotelian logic. But I replaced, anyway, I'm not going to talk about this today, but I replaced the organon of desire and the act with the phallus. But let's keep that for another seminar. So the metaphor, I asked the metaphor to the practicing analyst because I want to see how they are thinking of desire. I want to reduce the unnecessary information. So it gives a specific place. So at the moment, I will not say more about it. I think it's clear. The other things I am asking them is to give me a nickname for the analyzer. I told you that I called somebody Glatzas, which means socks. That wasn't for the case study, but for me to remember because he had a very common name, but he was coming with some weird shoes and white socks. So I called him to remember Glatzas. But that sounds funny, but I always ask from my analysts at some point, depends, to some of them I might ask them after a year, to some of them early on in analysis, especially the ones who have just started. I mean, they don't have experience more than a year, to give me, to prepare a title, if they will present this case, what they will call it. The naming, the nomination here, the title is very important because they have to include what they perceive as symptom, what is striking for them, and for sure, one of the very important signifiers. And along this, I ask them also to provide a paragraph. Why did you choose that name in your presentation? When you write the paragraph, you have to think of, okay, why did I do that? And then you are getting onto working and seeing what is repeated, why you chose it, and immediately it is applying the metaphor. What the fuck are you going to do about it? Okay? What are you going to do about it? About this that you wrote there? And you need that in order to construct the metaphor that you are going to give them, and you will be bound by it. If you construct the metaphor, the title, and the paragraph of the title, you should be able at least basically to say, if somebody asks you, let's say psychiatrist, even though he's not Lacanian, what are you doing? What are you doing with these patients? You don't have to use any fancy words or clinical psychological words, or how do you call it? Ποιος το λέγουνες? Θα πει να το λέγουν. Nice. Έφαγε εγώ πριν. If you explain what you are doing, like this person, blah, 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 this, blah, 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 and the first thing I'm doing in part of my study is to create some space for his voice. And I'm doing this, this, and this. And although Lacanian psychoanalysis seems that we are touching only upon the signifier, we are touching upon the signifier with having something in mind. Either that is the orientation of the treatment that Lacan spoke, or the orientation towards the act. We are not pushing them somewhere, but there is a purpose. We don't just give interpretation about everything. Okay, you touch upon things that I will speak another time about pure analysis, which is a different thing. But from what I'm talking today, maybe I should find a different name. So you need a paragraph. You can try these things with your own, even though you think that you are practicing perfectly. Try these exercises. Naming of the title, and early, not when you are going to supervise. Do it early in the sessions, even though you change later the name. Give a paragraph, the metaphor, and then a very simple strategy. When Marinos was presenting a case, I showed you how the study is happening. I don't remember what I said, but it was based on 2 points. 3 points. One, how to create an actual space, because there was no space, like a room for Marino. Second, to keep the anxieties of the carers at hand. And third, to place the voice back to that woman. It wasn't like that. I'm changing it, of course, but okay. So because this is what is happening there. She was suffering from it. It's not just, oh, just speak. People think that, oh, people come to analysis and they speak and we touch upon signify. It's not like that. It's not like that. Most of the people you have, like they will give you trouble. And another reason of giving the metaphor, I insist on that metaphor, it's to see for them if they're willing. It functions for you like a measurement, okay, if they are willing to continue working or not. Because if they are going outside of the metaphor, they are going to return to the symptom and they will be asking for cure. It will be very close, very, very real, very open, very clean for you to understand it. Other things that are happening in analysis is that I want to make sure that there are no, how do you call it? There are no interpretations given based on the analyst misconceptions. And that it's very easy to understand if you've got the above ingredients that I said, because you're supposed to be part of that strategy and the metaphor, but you are giving these sort of interpretations, and then you can ask, okay, why you are giving these interpretations? And they will tell you, oh, because this and that. Okay, but how do they fit in this, what you said earlier, or in the general involvement? And somebody says, yes, okay, but there was a relapse of the symptom and I wanted to plot. You put analysts in having in mind these 3-4 structures I said. By asking the question, you can keep them responsible for what they are saying, and you keep them also steady, not to get lost. Not to get lost by their own jouissance in the meanings and in the freedom that analysis gives them, because especially if some of you are trying to practice with the askesis, first of all, you need to have a good ground. But a lot of people, you ask them and tell you, I had a feeling or something, and they start speaking you like spiritually. I understand the spiritual dimension of the life of the person, but during the time of supervision, I don't care. I don't care if you are spiritual. I don't care. If you are spiritual, I want you to speak about it in the terms of what you are doing there. That's what I care about, what you are doing there. You are paid for. Okay? So these things, you need to be grounded. And there are 2 reasons to be grounded. With what I said, or by being able to speak in relation to the symptom and what Miller is doing. The structures and the symptom. This is to ground the psychoanalyst, because if you don't have any specific ground, you get lost easily. Okay? And it's, even if you say something spiritual during the sessions, I will ask them, okay, you that happened, from where did you get that? When they tell you something, for example, I'm going to another point, by the way. When they tell you something in terms of the analysis, it has to be linked in 2 ways. One of the 2. One, let's say I said today to Elena Loizu, let's say she's my analyst, that I'm not good with money. And she says, but your father, I'm not good with money. My father is good with money. I have never been always good with money. And she says, but you told me that he was bankrupt. I said that, but I said it 4 sessions ago. So this interpretation links something. The way I practice and the way I tell people to do askesis, it's don't use even though it is difficult, especially with melancholic schizophrenics, don't use material from different sessions. Why? Because, yes, let's say Elena's interpretation make me think, oh yeah, he was in bankruptcy. Why do I think that he's okay? At the end of the day, it will close the unconscious because it was from distant. It was from 3 sessions ago, and so on. Especially with psychotic patients, if you do that, you are not going to provide a good construction. I will tell you why I ask them. Let's say somebody says, I did this, I said this. So they brought the signifier strong. I say, I couldn't hear anything in their presentation in the supervision to me related to. I said, why did you use the word strong? And they tell me, because this, and what they do is they analyze further without being said, something that was said, and they reach their own conclusion. What happened there is that they might not be wrong. They might have information from another session. That's a second, let's say, possibility. But what is happening is that they gave an interpretation based on signifiers that they were not there. I want to have a link in the same session. Why? Think of an analysis which is happening based on this link by session, link by session, link by session. You build something so strong, especially with psychotic cases, that later it becomes a very, very strong base to place their act. Okay, that's why I never interpret between sessions, like take a material from other sessions, or I never give an interpretation who I thought, I mean, I don't know if I'm doing it by accident, but I think I'm not doing it. But I'm trying anyway for the analysis information. When they say I gave this interpretation or I said that, and sometimes they're very proud, I'm sorry, I have to do my job sometimes. I pick up that word, okay, where did you find that in the discourse today? And they discovered that they didn't say, and it was their own misconception, or they rushed. They rushed to give an interpretation without the signifiers coming closely together. Let's say, Elena Loizu, sorry, Leamo, in the example I used earlier, if she could wait, the 2 signifiers or 2 similar signifiers will appear in the same session. And when she will give an interpretation, they will tie together. They will create something very powerful. And a chain of whole signifiers will appear, but based on this solid thing. Okay? So that's another thing I'm asking in supervisions, if the interpretations given are based on material provided by that session.
Okay. Can I just ask something? It strikes me that what you're saying, when you said at the beginning about giving a metaphor in the first session, it seems that that's the structure of the procedure that you're talking about. So in each session, to organize the signifiers or organize signification around a metaphor. Now, let's create a focal point.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's and of course it takes time and practice to do that, and it's challenging for the analyst, but also it puts the analyst within the procedure and not as an outsider. And this is where I speak about the non-body. I'm not judging Miller's way. It's very valuable, and it's one of the ways that you can do a decent analysis. Okay,
I think you've made the case actually in what you've said so far, in terms of when you said building something strong. What I could hear there was about, because the most important thing is for the analysand to come to be able to recognize their desire, or how even to extract their desire from their own discourse, even of their complaint, so that they can begin to hear what they're saying and be able to pinpoint where the desire is. Because sometimes it's in the complaint. So if somebody says such and such is missing, well, that's the desire is behind that. but it's expressed as a lack.
Well, with this way, we slowly we are moving away, I believe, from a desire produced within the structures and the symptom to something which is a unique construction. And that's towards the act, let's say, but anyway, this is not up to us at the end of the day. But let's keep the comment in the way you explained it, because it was very nice. I can accept questions, by the way, because I have been speaking for, I don't know, 40 minutes. Ask me anything for Angele, also you. A question for supervision, anything. Any questions? Okay. What I want to make sure is that it's not only functioning as a second analysis, but it's functioning as a second analysis where you are going to testify. For me, it's slightly a second analysis, but it's a very powerful testimony, not of yourself, but what are you doing with this other person there, with the other subject. And because it's serious stuff, you know, somebody is paying you, somebody's coming to you. You need to be able to speak. And I like to hear two things. I ask them very basic stuff related to Lacanian terms. As we proceed with supervision, of course, I ask them about the phallus, and I tell them how to find the symptom. For example, I might provide a very simplified way for them to start thinking of the symptom. Let's say you've got somebody, I told them you have to look at the ideal and how, which is part of the drive, how they are proceeding to approach that idea. And they might tell me with hyperactivity. Okay, so this person's symptom might be because they idealize hyperactivity, blah, 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 all this stuff. They are not able to rest. Okay, so these are simple ways, because resting is not included into this idealization of whatever, of the sexes or whatever that they are trying to do there. So as supervision proceeds, I provide some explanations in the coming analysis, but also I ask them, okay, I want you to think of the phallus there. And because I want them to know that in order to understand the metaphor, they need to have at least a basic base of a few things that we see in the practice when we're working with the structures. And of course, I ask them about the structures also in the process. You know, saying psychotic, okay. They might be able to speak about desire, the phallus, blah, blah, and then if they proceed more, I will ask them about how the foreclosure is functioning. That's a question I ask to a lot of people when they proceed. Let's say if they speak about psychosis or repression or privation, if it's disavowal, if it's perversion, I ask them specifically how these main mechanisms, dividing, indicating structures, are working. Because a lot of people say, oh, the foreclosure. I want to know what signifies word foreclose, of course, but how it's functioning, because foreclosure is not just the foreclosure of a signifier, it's a whole operation of things. And if they are able to do that session by session, this detail, this nanotechnology that I mentioned sometimes, it's very clear to them that foreclosure functions, it has 3, 4, 5 different functions besides eliminating a signifier. They are able to speak in their own words at the end of the day and using the Lacanian jargon, okay, Lacanian words and Freudian, to explain the phenomena. Something else that I try to do is for them to, because it's difficult, at the end of the day, you are there and you are experiencing on your body, especially when you are not experienced analyst, you are feeling on your body this, it's alive on your body, the this cause of the other. Of course, you had analysis before and it's not so heavy, blah, blah, blah. I want them to be able to be, to metaphorize in three ways the case. One is through Lacanian terminology of Freudian, as I said. The second is through the literal metaphor, okay? And the third with their own words, to simplify it, okay? The three way of metaphorization of the case provides the practice of the rookie analyst three different, maybe I don't have the words now, but it really helps you to get into different dimensions of understanding as an insider what is going on. But also it puts you as an outsider, okay, but also at the same time as someone who's inside. If you are able to explain it in very simple words, which is quite a task, you can also say in a popular meeting about psychoanalysis that someone will invite you, you can speak about psychoanalysis. If you can speak about the case very in your own words and simple, you can speak and transmit psychoanalysis. We don't transmit psychoanalysis by speaking when they ask us, it has to be like 1, 2, 3 sentences that click with life. They click with the person who is asking. So that's why I included, and then I do that in my practice also. Tell me one sentence. They tell me many things, and I ask them, give me one sentence. What makes you suffer there? It's not that I understand, but when they put it in a sentence, it becomes clearer for them. It's a structure. The sentence is a structure, and from that simplification, they immediately go to how to deal with it instead of complaining, because the complaint doesn't have a structure. Okay, questions? I have a lot to say, but I prefer accepting questions.
Can you give some examples?
What?
Well, lots of things actually. It's all very, very helpful and very structuring.
If I remember.
So when you said how the foreclosing mechanism is functioning, what would you expect to hear in a good description of how it's functioning?
I will expect to hear details. First of all, how it functions on the signifier or the signifiers that it forecloses.
Can you give an example?
Not example, but I can say a few things that will be as an example. Let's say the signifier man or mother is having an impact. It's foreclosed. And it's very clear. This mechanism, it creates a whole series of operations. For example, if it's psychosis, then we have to understand more the image that woman, because if she stabilizes, let's say, psychosis, we have to see her image, how she functions in the world. She functions on the imaginary, so it's based on I forgot again, the ideal ego. So we have to see if there is some sort of an ego operating. So there are binaries also. What are those binaries? If this is, if the man and the woman are foreclosed, let's say, then how this person is able to function? Well, she does a different schism, separation of people by separate them into poor and rich, or high class and non-high class. We have to see the other binaries that are functioning there, and also the other keywords, the other signifiers that are operating around these imaginary binaries. Also, because of that foreclosure and because of these ideas that are created because of that foreclosure, we can find the relationship to symptom. One analyst, psychologist in the past, she was complaining why she didn't have analysts coming to her, even though she had all her papers, blah, 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 blah. And what she couldn't understand is that she was fighting with everybody. She couldn't understand that, but she was also always putting the blame to the others, and she was feeling that she was protecting Lacan or the truth or whatever. She wouldn't be able to understand that because of the nature of this series that foreclosure created. So these small indications that I mentioned now, they will help the analyst to understand how to function in the sessions. Okay, and also challenge desire there, because you are not going to keep back by saying things because she will get upset. This woman, of course, you are not going to say things for her to get upset, but there is a metaphor that is higher, that is higher than you. It places the one who desire, the at least one who desire, in a different place. It's his act that places him or her into that different literal metaphor with another subject who's opposed to desire, because that's why she came to analysis. So the subject's opposed to desire, it's analysis, and it's not the analysis for me. If the analysis is there, at least one who desires, we assume that. So these things will help the analyst how to operate in that space. So this is a series of things that I expect them to say and understand, also in relation to the symptom. If you understand this small thing, you can understand the symptom better, and how it opens in the fields of life, because they will be speaking about friends, about this, about the other, whatever. Of course, you will understand their own image, okay? But this is a series of I want them to be able to tell me a few things about foreclosure and how, and because they understood the procedure of foreclosure, I don't call it, well, mechanism is a nice word, but it's a procedure also. They are able to understand the subject's ways, but also because of the metaphor, they understand that the subject has to change specific ways to fit that metaphor, to fit that place of desire. Okay, because the first thing that they have to do is to keep their own desire detached from any invocations or attempts from the analysand to place them in a specific position. Did I answer, Penny? You at least.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, you know, the kind of things you're saying would, I mean, it would benefit from more of that, you know, more.
Yeah.
Because there's many variables. So, for example, we could ask the question of, in a way, how you discern a foreclosed signifier, what you do in response to it, how would you approach, for example, a situation where man or woman is foreclosed? How would you deduce that? How would you go about, you know, what kind of material would you use, or what kind of approach would you use in order to respond, in order to facilitate some form of symbolization? Yeah. So it's great material and very core, because I don't think anybody's doing that anywhere with that kind of focused detail. That is, I mean, there's a coherence and a consistency in the perspective you're bringing. It demonstrates itself even with the coordinates that you're giving, that it's a very structured approach. And that's the core of what is missing, I would say, in the teaching. Not that it has to be a formula, but for people to know how to begin to categorize in that way, because it's not so obvious for people to get it just, I mean, it takes many years of the readings and the right kind of context for people to click certain things.
When the other thing I'm doing is that if I see somebody who is, it has their own structure, when people have their own structure in presenting, and they approach the case with another way, I respect that, as long
Yes.
as they know
Yes.
what they are doing, you know.
Yes.
And the same thing I'm doing with the sessions, you know, if because at the end of the day, the metaphor, by the way, the literal metaphor, it's a way to answer. I said that in many sessions. What is psychoanalysis? But in that context, it will ask. Let's say I went to Penny, and Penny gave me a literal metaphor. It's for me to understand what the fuck I'm going to do here, besides asking from somebody to cure me. So Marino's I forgot what I wanted to say, but Marino, I cannot read very well. Anyway, the person who has the hand raised,
It's Marinos.
can we see your
Hi,
face? Also?
yeah, sure.
Hello, Marino.
So my question, let me just
Jackson.
lower the hand. Okay. The question is with regards to the foreclosed signifier. I have a question to that, because when the analysand encounters a foreclosed signifier, it's a signifier that, for example, the word let's say beautiful. The word beautiful, for example, when there is no, it doesn't have a meaning. Is that how it is? There is a gap. It's like there is something veiling the gap with no meaning.
When the foreclosed signifier appears, they cannot be represented for some reason through a signifier, and then either the gap appears or different sorts of paranoias appear. The big other appears are persecutory. So depending from the case, but many times I saw that one of the main signifiers that they represent, I don't know, the father or the mother or whatever, it's actually signifiers that this person, that person, those people or whatever, I forgot my English now, that the people in analysis, they might have to find a solution with and actually take it in order to proceed to desire. That's what I found, and it's quite interesting, because we learn to work with psychosis just to fix them. But from my practice, which I had a lot of psychotic subjects, it's to proceed to their desire. They need to find a way to deal with that signifier, which is so close.
Just thinking, I think your question is a really good one as well, Marinos, because it opens up this field. So you may get two kinds of things. One is no signification, where there's a demand to act. So if somebody says, be a man or be a father, and there's no signification there, there's a demand from the other, and the subject doesn't have the means to represent that. And then there could be other signifiers where there's too much meaning, it's too massified. And that can knock out the subject as a subject, even without any particular demand, because there is too much, let's say an insult or something that has associations, but that it knocks out the subject. I'm just thinking of a bipolar young man. No, he was schizophrenic, actually. I only met him once, but he told me about his triggering. I can't remember now what the trigger was, but it was clear that he encountered something that kind of knocked him, you know, was very impactful. So, yeah, just rudimentary, but these are the kind of fundamental questions that your material is bringing, Petros. So it's crucial that we elaborate, and I hope you'll do more of those.
Yeah, it's this just an introduction to how we supervise Lacanianly, but it's more than enough for people who are practicing analysts to to get something out of it, and maybe for extra support in their practice. Any more questions? Angele? Is here. And let's go. Angelitza, anybody? Nadia? Molotkina?
I have one more question, if I may.
Yeah.
Let's say, how do you deal with analysands who are not able,
Analyst.
not
Now we're talking
giving-
about supervision.
Yes. Okay. Same. It's the same thing. How do you deal with psychoanalysts in supervision who are not, I could say the word, honest with themselves and not in denial to share or to express exactly how they are being affected, or etc., etc.
I shout at them. I curse at them. And I'm very strict with them. And I get bored. Yeah. This is online. If I hand them in front of them, it's worse. Yeah.
But is this something that is being constructed along the way, or is it something that denotes the some form of the jouissance of the analyst within the session?
If this continues, it means that the analyst is seeking for identity. Okay, and what will happen? Let's say I don't say anything, but let's say I don't say, you shouldn't be an analyst. You're a fucking idiot. I'm not going to say these things, of course. You can say what will happen with analysts is that nobody will be coming to. It's that from my experience, that people, they just stop going to them and they cannot get the referral. One thing that I want to see in the process of supervision, maybe a year or two, whatever, is to see if their own analysants start referring the people. This is a good example that at least part of the analyst jouissance is kindly elaborated. If there is emphasis on these lies that you say, Marino and stuff, as you mentioned, then for me it's an indication that the analyst tries to get an identity out of it. And usually it's, they don't really listen to what we are saying. And, for me, I get bored and I tell them to stop. If I don't see anything that is proceeding, there's no need to do supervision.
What is the purpose of supervision for the analyst?
For the analyst, information.
Yes.
I just said in the beginning, to elaborate further, their jouissance, if we want to put in this term, and to be able to offer, if they are going to deal with people, to do it in the best possible way. Because after analysis, what you create, yes, you have your own meanings and stuff, but it's still a paranoia that you're creating. So we wanted to, because the end of analysis comes with meanings, of course, and these are your own meanings, and they it can be paranoia, not in terms of paranoia as an illness, but paranoia like you are not able to accept sometimes the signifiers that are coming on your body, because they delete whatever you have constructed.
This was one of the areas where Lacan had a big disagreement with the IPA, and was part of the reason that there was that split, because they were working with a countertransference, which is they were using how the analysand made them feel to orient the treatment. And Lacan says, no, that needs to, how the analyst feels is a matter of the analyst's
Yes.
suffering, whatever. You can't use that to guide the treatment, even if it's not that.
That's imaginary.
There, but it's not an orientation. You have to take that to your analysis. And in the end, the NLS WIP, essentially what is supervised is the countertransference. So it's exactly what Petros said, which is about the jouissance, right? How the analysand makes me feel, if it irritates me or whatever, that's my countertransference. So the analysand has a transference to the analyst, then the analyst has a countertransference. And that's what you've got to get out of the way, because otherwise it's in a paranoia, which is not the creation of new knowledge. It's the thing about paranoia is a shadow, a very restricted shadow of knowledge. It's not a creative discovery.
I've got an answer from Marinos, which I just the way I do supervision is to see the journey of the analyst's desire. Okay, either he's whatever in the place of the ascesis or practicing with the structures or whatever. I want to see where do they stand and elaborate their desire. That's for me it's the reason for the purpose of supervision. Okay, another question, Angele? Comment? Καμία ρε.
I think I wanted to add to what Penny said, and to the subject also, that to the jouissance, is that it seems that just going through your own personal analysis will take you there to some point, but once you start practicing and then you go for supervision, you get pushed further, because only someone else can, by placing yourself with that many analysands in different sessions, that's when something else comes up, like you push further, and then there's opportunity, maybe otherwise you wouldn't have ever discovered it anyway. So kind of these opportunities get created to explore further, like to see what else is there that triggers you, or your jouissance, or what else is, in place. Anyway, I just wanted to add this.
Yes, very nice comment, Nadia. Okay. If there are no other questions, θα πάμε στο καλό. Bye bye.